What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are breaking down another CBS mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. We just breached 10K just a couple days ago, so thank you so much for doing that. That's a huge milestone. All I have to thank is y'all for believing in me, loving me, and putting up with my BS 24/7. I love y'all to death. Below my face is my board. Below that are all the great ways to get involved with the community, as well as take advantage of our two sponsors of the show, Olipop, as well as UnderDog Fantasy. Use those codes, take advantage of them. I do the same thing, so feel free to join me in doing that. Let's get right into this. Let's have a good time. Starting off with the number one pick. Jesus, CBS, like, come on. Let's condense the site a little bit here, right? But the number one overall pick, we got Caleb Williams. We're going to be doing an ultimate draft guide for every single team. I'm actually building it right now for every single team. And if y'all were there back with me during the summer, you guys know my different team breakdowns. Essentially, it's going to be that, but hella expanded. It's going to be that same offensive and defensive breakdown. And rather than the schedule, I'm going to have a trade breakdown scenario for maybe a key player or two, as well as every single round, every single need that you should be targeting and players that you should be targeting. And then also then a recap based on the roster after all of that. So super exciting, going to be very in-depth. It's going to be a pain in the ass. I'm definitely going to get carpal tunnel syndrome and some type of arthritis from doing it, but it's worth it. Let's get right into this though. Regardless, Caleb Williams, I was just thinking about that type of trade scenario that I was talking about for Justin Fields. You know, I do think that it's fiscally responsible to go after a new QB. I love Justin Fields. Moving on from him, smart thing to do. We're not going to be continuing this mock draft just for the sake of time, and I've already continued 3 mock drafts within the past 7 days, so feel free to check those out. But Caleb Williams is spectacular talent. I don't really need to tell you that. You know the talent's there. People say he's a diva. I don't know if he's necessarily a diva because he doesn't look like he's somebody that pisses off his own teammates. Like, I don't really care about how guys work with the media. Like, at the end of the day, football is a game on the field, and then there's a professional side that's off the field, of course. Like, you can't throw it out, but, you know, he still is just an insanely phenomenal player on the field. And people, it's not like we're talking about Spencer Rattler here, who's a genuine asshole. Like, this is, you know, just maybe a little bit of an immature person. And to be fair, maybe some people are just better at covering up their immaturity off the field than others, and maybe he's not very good at that. Who knows? But the talent is there, and again, it's very fiscally responsible. At pick number 2, you got Jayden Daniels here for the Washington Commanders. I do this as well. Y'all know Jayden Daniels is my QB too, and I'm a big fan of him. He's a great player. Needs to learn how to process the middle of the field better, but Jayden Daniels still is a very phenomenal prospect with his mobility, with the fact that he's improved his accuracy tremendously over his collegiate career, not even his NFL career yet. He has really already done it at that level. So it's pretty awesome to see that a player can really ascend like that from being one of the worst and most inaccurate college quarterbacks to being one of the most accurate. So good job for Jayden there. At pick number 3, fake Maye goes to the Patriots. Y'all know I'm not super duper high on Drake. He's my number 24 player in the class, which is still pretty damn solid. I mean, again, that's starting caliber quarterback right there. It's just I like other players more, and that's okay. You know, he's a very talented, high upside quarterback. I think the Patriots would be stupid to pass on the pure upside. Like, he provides so much more talent. But I did test it out in this week's mock draft going Marvin Harrison, and you can end up taking another high upside quarterback like J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, etc. later on if you'd like. So there is always that option. But Drake Maye, it's hard to say no to Drake Maye. Of course, this team has done a good job at drafting quarterbacks outside of the top 10, and they've done a pretty poor job drafting receiver outside of the top 10. So that's why I actually have a legitimate counter argument for going Marvin Harrison at 3 rather than fake Maye. Pick number 4, Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to the Arizona Cardinals. Makes sense. Best player available, position of need, makes sense. Pick number 5, Brock Bowers goes to the Los Angeles Chargers. So I was expecting Kellen Moore to be the offensive coordinator of the Chargers. At this moment, I'm pretty sure he actually got hired by the Eagles. He was flying in yesterday for an interview, but I mean, I've even seen quite a few tweets talking about him as the new OC. So 90% sure that he is now the Eagles offensive coordinator. What I do know is he's not the Chargers OC. That will be TBD, but this was a dream pick, in my opinion, for Kellen Moore as someone who loves his tight ends. But Jim Harbaugh, or am I tripping? It's not Jim. Is it John? Son of a bitch. I don't even know. It's Mr. J. Harbaugh. I swear, names are not my forte. Pronouncing them might be, but remembering them not so much. That Broshmo is the exact opposite. He can't pronounce Brock Bowers. He said Brock Bayers or something. And it's just like, well, he'll remember the name, just not how to pronounce it. That's why we work well together. That's why he's my draft bro. But the Chargers going Brock Bowers, it does make sense because Harbaugh does really value that tight end position. He's never really valued wide receiver at that same level. You look at his whole entire NFL and collegiate career as a coach, he does always have some type of talent at the tight end position. Brock Bowers does also line up with that. I was just hoping that maybe Kellen Moore could be that guy for them to really unlock Brock Bowers' potential. Pick number 6, the New York Giants go Malik Neighbors out of LSU. I'm a big fan of Malik Neighbors. We feel like the top 7 is relatively solidified. We know who's going to be going there. So, just for the sake of time, New York's been looking for a number 1 wide receiver. It fits exactly what they're looking for. Some people think Malik Neighbors is a top 4 prospect. Not fully there, but still very good prospect. Joe Alt then goes to the Tennessee Titans. Brian Callahan knows the value of receiver as well as offensive tackle. He sees his quarterback get absolutely killed, but he also sees that, wide receiver is pretty damn key. So I think Joe Alt's a smart move. Round 2 will probably be another offensive weapon just because, again, Callahan, OC from the Bengals, has seen firsthand what happens when you have a really, really good receiving core and also what happens when you don't have a very good O-line. So Joe Alt, amazing player, great value, great position of need. Dallas Turner. So we've seen this kind of copy and paste quite a few times now. Dallas Turner to the Atlanta Falcons. It looks like he's going to be a top 10 pick just based on how everybody is going balls to the wall on Mr. Turner here. Talent through the roof. I don't know why it's 252 pounds now. It used to be 242, but I'll check the updated statistics on his weight. We've seen him play in the 240s. He still plays like he's in the 250s, if not 260s, which is incredible. It's great to see that speed to power, and he is a crazy athlete. He is my number 4 player in the class, so I can't really complain about it. And the edge class has gotten much, much thinner. Jared Verse is then the selection for the Bears at pick number 9. It's a pick that I made this past week. Makes sense. He's a great player. And this team definitely could be looking to upgrade that edge core. They do need that edge number 2. So Caleb and Jared are going to be the 2 picks for the Bears. At pick 10, we got Olu Fashanu here out of Penn State. Jets are looking for an upgrade in offensive line. You could try to get the instant upgrade in Talise Fuaga, but Olu Fashanu, because he still is perfecting his pass blocking. Same thing with Talise, to be fair. But Talise is a little bit more polished as a run blocker than Olu is at the moment. Olu still is an outstanding tackle talent. I am not going to shame him at all. Pick 11, Leatu Latu goes to the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are going to be losing both Daniil and Marcus Davenport, so that kind of sucks. And DJ Wonnum, I think, if I'm not mistaken, y'all were talking about DJ Wonnum. He was a bigger loss than losing Marcus Davenport. So I think it says he'll be coming back from injury, which will be a plus to at least have him on roster. But if you can bring back Daniil Hunter, that would be a big plus to be able to train a freak athlete like Leatu Latu. Could fall to the 2nd or 3rd round if that neck injury does become a legitimate concern. At pick 12, I've seen this pick a lot as well. Terrion Arnold to the Broncos. So Terrion is my number 1 corner in the class. Super smart player. Just really knows his stuff. He has big slip-ups here and there, but every single corner on planet Earth does. So I'm going to give him a little bit of slack on that. But still an incredible player. This team should be looking for a contingency plan at that corner 2 spot, unless Patrick Surtain needs to go, which then they still have their corner 1. I still would prefer to go after Rome Odunze here just because, I personally think that other teams in your own division will be seeking a move up that other team is Kansas City, seeking a move up for Rome Odunze and maybe not so much Terrion Arnold. But the Raiders select J.J. McCarthy with the next selection. I have J.J. as a top 64 player. He's someone who I would take at the end of the 1st round. That's usually what I do. I say if you go with the number overall on my board and divide it by 2, That's where I'm a little bit more comfortable with you taking him. That's like the beginning of where I'm really comfortable with it. Within reason. I mean, to be fair, if you ended up taking, JC Latham at pick number 7, well, actually, no, that's the same thing. So, yeah, actually, it works. So, regardless, I like to make sure that when I make a board, there's a certain range that I'm comfortable for certain players. Pick 13 is way too early for JJ. This is a squad that needs either an instant impact quarterback or a developmental one in a different round. This team doesn't need to take their developmental guy here at 13, especially when the value just doesn't line up. Pick 14, Rome Odunze goes to the New Orleans Saints. I think this is proper value for Rome. It's nice to see a little bit of a change of pace. I'd obviously recommend going after offensive tackle, but if you're not going to go O tackle, I do think a wide receiver too, not a bad option. And Rome Odunze is a phenomenal player, so I'm not going to shame it too much. At pick number 15, Nate Wiggins goes to the Colts. Made this pick myself. Seen multiple other people make this pick as well. He is a phenomenal corner with a lot of field instincts. And, I just don't trust him in the box. Sometimes he takes plays off. But, when he's going 100%, it's hard to get mad at him. He is a very, very good corner. Pick number 16, Byron Murphy II goes to the Seahawks. Glad to start seeing more and more people fall in love with Byron Murphy. He ended up being my IDL one just about a couple weeks ago when I officially graded him. Phenomenal prospect, 300. Actually, I think he actually weighed at 300 pounds, not 308. He was initially listed 308, but Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, was listed at 300. And he just knows how to jump the gap. Extremely athletic, very, very smart. One of the best prospects that we've seen at the interior defensive lineman position this year. Pick number 17, you got Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I take corner of the Jaguars myself. I think it's a very smart move. I like Ennis Rakestraw Jr. a little bit more, but I can't complain about a ball hawk in Quinion Mitchell. There's just not enough all-22 tape out there for me to put an actual official grade on Quinion right now. And those of y'all who do see, official grades on Quinion Mitchell, either are seeing it from people who have special connections or people who are not watching all 22. I'm not going to BS y'all. I'm not going to give you an official grade on a corner that I haven't actually watched in all 22. Same thing for receivers. Same thing for safeties. So, Quinion Mitchell is one of those guys. There's 2022 Ohio State film out there. That's where you get to see him against. That's why I found my initial opinion of him, and I found it as a third-round quality corner, which is good. Not great. So, I haven't seen anything from this year, to be fair. Statistically, he's phenomenal. And, I got to give credit where credit's due. There's a lot of people who have access to the tape who are thinking he's the next big thing. And we get to see him in just 2 days. Holy shit. They're in Mobile, Alabama. Can't believe I'm driving there tomorrow. That's going to be ridiculous. But JC Latham is the next pick there for the Bengals at pick 18. I don't really know why he'd be the 9th overall prospect, but that's okay. Not really a big deal when I have him at 19. Great player, great right tackle spot, great right tackle need, and the Bengals would be stupid to pass on an offensive lineman. I would prefer maybe Talise Fuaga, but JC Latham is not too shabby. At pick 19, Talise Fuaga goes to the Los Angeles Rams to transfer to being a left tackle, but that is best player available. Would not shame the Rams at all to go offensive line. At pick 20, I love storylines, and having the Steelers select Amarius Mims out of Georgia to pair up with Broderick Jones is just spot on. Obviously, I think he's going to go much earlier than this, but can't complain. I would be very happy if the Steelers ended up making it out of the draft with the superstar in Amarius Mims. At pick 21, we got Troy Fautanu going to the Dolphins. I love Troy Fautanu as a guard. He actually has 34-inch arms, so he could actually play tackle as well. I think that it might be even better than the Jordan Morgan move I made, but still a great player. 3 interior offensive linemen up for contract. You still have Eichenberg there, but you could definitely use another one of those guards in Troy Fautanu. At pick 22, the Eagles go Jordan Morgan. Just depends on how long you expect Lane Johnson to be there, because you're training Jordan Morgan to be the successor to Lane Johnson. I think Jordan Morgan is just outside of my top 64. He's still he's extremely athletic. I just think he needs a little bit more refinement, which fits the Eagles' MO. I can see it happening. It just depends on, the actual potential lifespan of Lane Johnson on the Eagles. Pick number 23, Chop Robinson goes to the Houston Texans. I love Chop Robinson. Do not love him as much as the 11th overall prospect. Hello. And, the with Tavondre Sweat on the board, I just don't really see Chop Robinson being the better value. You have two really solid edge rushers right now. I wouldn't shame this at all, but I just think there's better value, like better return on investment when you can end up getting someone like Javon Solomon, Xavier Thomas, who are going to be those third round targets at edge rusher versus Chop Robinson here, and then get Tavondre Sweat, who's just a freakish build, who should probably be going even higher than this. Pick number 24, you got Graham Barton, center out of Duke. Left tackle as well, but you're going to be getting yourself a bona fide starter here at either left tackle or center. I do think it will end up being center, but still, phenomenal prospect, multiple year starter, top end talent. It's just intriguing to see if he actually can land as a true tackle. If he can, then A+. If he can't, then I'd probably say a B+. Pick number 25, Kool-Aid McKinstry goes to the Green Bay Packers. He kind of disappointed me for a couple of those, for quite a few reps from this year. But what I realized is the moment he gets beat, the next 2 or 3 plays, he might be the best corner snap for snap in the draft. It's really weird. I think there's some type of motor concern. A lot of these players do take randomly reps off, especially when they shouldn't. Even Nate Wiggins, he takes part of a rep off, and it's if you just played through the whole rep, you'd actually be even better of a corner than what we think you are. Same thing with Kool-Aid McKinstry. He takes a certain rep off, he has a bad rep, and then the next play, he's just straight up locked down. So hopefully we'll see Kool-Aid McKinstry become the lockdown version of himself, because I think that could be a top 10 prospect, no doubt. There's just those other plays in there. Pick number 26, we got the Buccaneers going Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know. I don't know about this one. I am fine with Brian Thomas in this range. Let me clarify that. But for the Buccaneers, with all the talent on the board, we're still talking about Braylon Trice being here. You could go back to Washington for another edge rusher, because y'all know how much I love him. If you want to go Keon Coleman to be the successor of Mike Evans, I think there's better players for what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should be looking for rather than Brian Thomas. I feel like Brian Thomas wouldn't fully get his maximum potential here in Tampa. Of course, without Canales, we'll see what happens. But, Baker Mayfield, projected guy there. Don't feel like Baker's the type of guy to maximize Brian Thomas. I'd prefer someone who either is going to be that jump catch threat or someone that Baker can just trust being an elite separator as a route runner rather than going for the deep balls in Brian Thomas, because he plays a certain role and he plays it very well. But that's just not the role I think that they should be using on the Buccaneers. At pick 27, Cooper DeJean is selected for the Cardinals. Probably will go earlier. The only reason he'll be here is because he fractured his leg in November. That sucks. But he's a very talented player, can play on the boundary. I think he's much better in the slot or as a safety. I think safety is his best position. And I think he could be a top 10 safety day one in the NFL. But people are very adamant on the fact that he should be playing corner. I'll do a reevaluation of him before his leg injury, which is something I don't do. I do not like doing evaluations before a major injury, because they're not the same player after the injury, because something very, very traumatic happened to their body. Just people are not the exact same. They play differently. But a fractured leg wouldn't change the play style that I see for him as a safety. The range, the come downhill speed, that's not something I really see changing with the leg fracture. But I can see that having a change on someone who needs to move in multi directions and someone who's going to be a little bit more of the quick twitch fiber. So that's why I'm a little bit more stubborn on my opinion in terms of that. But it's kind of hard to say no to one of the more versatile pieces in the secondary in Cooper DeJean. So Cardinals get a good one there. Pick 28, the Bills go Tyler Guyton. I honestly think that Spencer Brown's doing a fine enough job. They got Joe Brady and elevated him to OC today, which is a big plus. I love that for him. And, I do think they're going to go after a wide receiver here. I'd prefer for it to be Troy Franklin. If they're not going to go after a wide receiver, I'd actually go after the next pick, which we'll discuss, and Jerzon Newton, just because the value is too damn good. A lot of people are trying to drop Jerzon Newton to the later parts of the round. Maybe it's because of size. I am not sure. Maybe it's because of attitude. Like, I love Drazon Newton, but he continues to post a ton on Twitter. And it's a lot of it is hyping him up. So I'm not going to ding him for that, but I'm just speculating here. Maybe some teams just don't like that and he's starting to panic. I don't know. I don't know. It's weird to me, but it is what it is. But I just don't think Tyler Guyton's the right move for the Bills. If you want to go after a safety like Tyler Nubin, I think that'd be perfectly fine as well. But Kansas City then goes Drazon Newton. The value is just too good to pass up. I don't think defensive interior is the primary position to target, but when you have proper value like this, kind of hard to say no. At pick 30, we have the Detroit Lions going Kamari Lassiter. My only issue with him is that he is just too light to handle bigger, more physical receivers. I think that he is very, very smart in zone coverage. I think in off zone, he might be one of the best corners in the class. Just very smart. And that's weird because last year in 2022, technically 2023 was last year, but the last playing season before this one, he actually was a little bit more nuanced in terms of man coverage because of his recovery speed. Now it looks like he just totally developed his trust for his instincts in the game, and I really appreciate that. That's why I have him still as a top 40 player on my board. I still have a lot of faith. Let me double check that. He might be. Oh, he's 41. Oh my goodness. So he's a top 45 player on my board. And I think that definitely gives some type of kudos for him, for sure. Very smart player, but I want a true boundary one for Detroit. And the ones that are remaining, you do still have my number 10 player, Ennis Rakestraw, who is just coming off of a minute surgery. So he should be here, and he is here in this mock. But he's about 190 pounds and actually can handle some physicality quite well. That would be my pick for Detroit at this spot. I do think Kamari's not a bad selection, but I just do get worried about the role he will play here in Detroit. At pick number 31, the Niners go Kingsley Suamataia. This is a perfect selection because regardless of what tackles you find down the board to develop, if you find a future right tackle like Blake Fisher, you can have Kingsley be the future at left tackle and play the short-term right. And if you find someone like Karan Ahmedjadjeh in the third round, you can train him to be the left tackle and Kingsley to be the right tackle because he's had years at both. Big fan of the short-term and long-term implications of that. And at pick 32, we have Keon Coleman going to the Baltimore Ravens. Now that's intriguing. It's not a position I think the Ravens, or it's not a receiver type the Ravens would necessarily work well with. And since Odell Beckham Jr. is the role he's replacing, that's why I go Xavier Legette. But with Xavier Legette also being smaller and shorter than he was projected, it does kind of give some reason to be like, I don't know. But I'm still kind of on the Xavier Legette train or Troy Franklin train over Keon Coleman. I just don't feel like this would be a one-to-one switch, and Baltimore is doing a pretty damn good job offensively as a whole. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the show as always. On the road to 15K now, not even 10K. Thank you again. See you on the far side.